Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in today. Today, we have a very special guest with us, and we're going to be talking about something that we've never talked about before on this platform, but it is so super valuable. And today, it's going to be specifically geared towards our dog-powered sports folks, but it definitely can be applied to life and to other sports. So, Nancy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This is
really absolutely. So Nancy, for those of our guests who don't know you, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Nancy Reyes. I own Four-Year Canine in Elmhurst, Illinois, which is just outside of Chicago. I've been training for a long time. I got into dogs with basically from the behavior side. I had a dog that had behavior issues, and I helped people fix hopefully their dogs and give them a better life. And the journey has been 30 years in the making. And so now I do still lots and lots of behavior work, but I also do now a lot of dog sport training, and now specifically nose work and scent work. And now it's put me on the road to this topic, which is how do you do well in competitions, no matter what sport you're in? So all of that has brought me to this. I do have a training facility like I said, it's a pretty large one. I have 14 instructors that teach for me, and we do everything from puppy basic to barn hunt, agility, nose work, trick training, all of the above.
Yeah, so lots of experience with your own dogs, your trainers, and your clients, helping them teach new skills and then get them successfully out into the competition world as well. It's not always the easiest thing to navigate for people, especially our newcomers, because as we get into new sports and start trying new things, it's very normal for us to all have anxiety about it. You know, it's new and that's normal, but in order for us to be, a good partner for our dog, we also need to learn how to manage that and how to improve ourselves so that we're a good partner for our dogs. So today we've invited you on here to talk a little bit about mental management. And Nancy, can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
So the reason I did agility for very many years before nose work, and always the stress of being in competition and things like that was very difficult for me. So I learned about Lanny Basham that has mental management systems. And I had him come out many, many years ago to do a training on mental management that I used for agility. And over the years, it's improved, and it's also for life too. But I specifically were looking at dog sports. So then I started teaching nose work, which I loved, and we started the competition side of that, which I enjoyed. And then as I'm coaching people through agility and nose work and all these different sports, I realized in nose work specifically, I had very good, technically sound dogs and people, and they were still going out to the trials and having a very difficult time. They were not qualifying, and they were like ready. The dog had skill, the human had skill, everybody was where they needed to be, and still couldn't qualify. And it brought me back to mental management systems. So I did, because of a few of those clients of mine, I became a certified instructor in mental management to be able to help them progress to the next level, right? Because from there's always training and there's always room to improve, and you're always going to be doing that. But the mental piece was keeping them from being successful. Yeah. So as I went through, they did really well, and they ended up qualifying and achieving whatever goals they had, because it's not about being the top, it's just achieving whatever goals you have for your dog, for you and your dog. So that's kind of how I ended up doing that. And so the mental management system is nothing, it's what Lanny did in 1972, 72 or 70. He went and did the Olympics as a rifle shooter, and he came in second place then. And he was like wondering, why didn't he come in first? What was the difference? So he set out to interview people and the top performers to see what's different about them versus everybody else. And so then that's how he came up with mental management systems and used it for himself. On the next Olympics, he came in first place, and he was top of his game. And now he's been training other people doing golf and rifle shooting and everything from soup to nuts on the mental management game. So that's kind of how that's what brought me to that. And that's what
Mhm.
it is. And it really is about learning what you, how to have a plan or something, a program to be able to execute so that you can do the best you can at trials, and also be there for your dog, because
Right.
some dogs are more sensitive to their owner's feelings and emotions than others. Others dogs will be like, oh well, you'll be okay, right? Others
Yeah.
dogs are like,
I got
oh
this.
yeah, you just stand there because you're not kind of, and then other dogs really care, and that
Yeah.
affects them because it's like, okay, we're all gonna die, I think, because she's all freaked out. So, so that's why we try to help. That's how we can be a better partner for our dogs. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I love that because, dog powered sports really are about the connection, and oftentimes we think about going into a local race or a sanctioned race and you think about, am I prepared? Have we put in the mileage? Do we have the endurance? Have we done our speed work? Have we done, our core strength? Are we strong? Are we fit? Are we ready? And then we get on site and we fall apart because we forget about that mental component of, race day jitters or anxiety. And a little bit of stress, or jitters is not necessarily a bad thing because it can give us a little bit of
sure,
adrenaline,
right,
but too much of it and it can
right.
almost mentally cripple us and get us, stuck and bogged down with all of these negative thoughts and these what ifs. So this mental management program can help us kind of navigate that. Are there specific things with the management program that you help coach people through, specific
Sure.
things we should think about?
Sure. So one of the things is what you think about, you bring about. And that is actually a really, really true statement. And I'll give you an example, like in your sport, the dog park sport, it's very similar to nose work in that while your dog is hooked up to you and to your bike, it is really on the dog, right, to do his
Mhm.
thing, right?
Yeah.
He's got to do his job. So so it's same with nose work. They know what their job is. You've trained for it. So
Mhm.
let's say you're thinking, oh my God, maybe he's going to stop and pee.
Yeah.
He's going to stop and pee. And you're going to just thinking about that. You're going to think about that. And you're going to think about that. And guess what he's going to do?
Yeah.
Stop and pee. So you want to not think about those things. And whatever your thoughts are, your conscious thoughts, you want them to be feeding your subconscious, right? Because it's basically in how you, like when you're training all these technical skills that eventually become very automatic, for like driving a car. When
Mhm.
you learn how to drive, you're like, okay, I got to do this and I got to look this way and have all these steps, right? But now
Yep.
those of us that have been driving a while, you don't even think about all that stuff. Same
Yeah.
with dog sports, right?
Yeah.
Um, you already know how to rig the dog up. You already know how to set him up. You already know how to give him commands. You already know that. It's second nature.
Right.
So you need to put in those thoughts like, okay, you need to have a program for your race day and all.
Mhm.
The big thing, if you take away nothing else, is you need to be process oriented, not results oriented.
Okay. So
So,
talk to us a little bit about that.
so for example, oh, I have to get that title. So your focus is on the result, not the
Mhm.
process. So in every race or every competition, depending on where you are in your journey, right? If you're a
Mhm.
beginner or you're more advanced, there should be different goals that you're trying to hit. So for
Yeah.
example, let's say you have a dog that had some health issues that maybe took him out of his game, and now this is your first race back. Your thoughts, your process, your results shouldn't be, I gotta win this race. You want to
Mhm.
see, how's my dog doing? What's the, and you can have a small goal like, oh, I want him to just finish the race, or and I want him to, be happy and fit and be able to complete this all the way through because he just comes back
Right.
from an injury. So your focus is on that, not the result. And most times when you focus on the process of getting to what you want to do, the results usually show up, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
usually show up. But if you're so results oriented, that's when you choke, right? That's when you are
Yeah.
so, I got to get that title, or I got to get
Yeah.
that you then you lose all that. You're just so
Yeah.
worried about that instead of the process, about
Yeah.
the goal and enjoying the dog, being with the dog, or whatever it is. So you want to have, and race or every, like in certain sports, you like, if you have one race where you go for miles and miles, it's one race, right?
Mhm.
So you may want to have things, and just like in nose work, thoughts come in. So you want to think, yeah, we got this. My dog is strong. My dog can do this. Or and just breathing is really important. So you
Yeah.
want to be process oriented, not results oriented. Because I
Yeah.
think that's where that's where the disconnect is. Oh, I got to win. Why?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you want to win and you want to do well, but maybe in this point in time in your career where you're starting, you may not, may not be a good goal for you.
Yeah. And I think that's really important too, because of course we all want to go into these events and do our best.
Sure.
But I think if you have such an intense, results oriented goal or mindset as you're going through the event, one little slip up might happen. And then you're going to be beating yourself up about it the rest of the race. Like, gosh, that probably cost me it. Gosh, that was such a terrible turn. But if you're really focused more on the overall feelings and emotions in a positive manner, then you're
Right.
there for the journey and you're not going to be letting those negative thoughts creep in as you're on course with your
Right.
dog.
Well, and just like in your race, maybe the process or what you want to focus on for that race is, I want to do better turns. I want to make our
Yeah.
turns better and smoother, and that
Yeah.
can be the focus of your race. There's a turn coming up. We're going to make this beautifully nice and smooth, and it's going to be it's not going to be wide or whatever. So that might be your goal for that race. We want
Yeah.
to have smooth turns or
Yeah.
tight turns or whatever your goal is, instead of I got to win it. Right. So,
Yeah.
because that is, and you want to feel good about that. Like if you did a tight, and the thing is, and I think what you said about you want to do your best, but your best may not be what my best is that day.
Right.
It's our best for that day in that moment in time.
Yep.
So what I might want is my dog to have really good turns. The rest of it doesn't matter, especially if it's
Yeah.
something we've been struggling with. In agility, it's the same. It's like, I want to have really good weave pulls. Well, let's focus on that for that day. Don't worry about the rest of it. Nose work, I want to have a better start line, whatever that may be. So
Yeah.
I think we get so caught up in the I got to win instead of let's see where we're at. Let's enjoy that process, because you know what? At the end of the day, that's how you make improvements, right? And
Mhm.
and you also, at the end of each race, at the end of each training session, you should be
Mhm.
writing down what you did well, because you wouldn't be competing or you wouldn't be in that position if you weren't really doing something right.
Right.
So you want to write down what you did well, what your dog did well,
Mhm.
and maybe what you need to work on. Like, oh, I need to he needs to go a little faster, so that goes
Yeah.
into training or whatever. And then you can then put that into your training plan, instead of, oh, that cost me a few minutes. It's like, okay, we
Yeah.
did that well, we did this well. You always want to focus in your training and in your trials what you did well, you and your dog, because
Yeah.
I think we tend to focus on what we did incorrectly.
Yep.
And if you're, depending on what kind of a learner you are, having a notebook and having it with you, writing down, we did this well today in training,
Yeah.
we did this well. You start feeding that beautiful, like, I did that well. And then if you
Yeah.
also want to see how consistently well you're doing, right?
Mhm.
You're
Yeah,
doing super
absolutely.
well, like, oh, I've consistently done X really, really well. And that you feed that subconscious, so that your subconscious knows, oh, I do this very well. It is
Yeah.
like me to do this very well, right?
Yeah. Kind of becomes a positive mantra for you.
Right, right.
Yeah. I really like writing things down too. And like you said, focusing on positives and also improvements, because I think what can happen from, weekend to weekend, race to race, is that we'll end up beating ourselves up today about something that happened, a week ago or at the last race we were at. And that's so counterproductive. But I
Yeah.
find that, that immediate writing things down and kind of reflecting on it gives you a chance to almost unload it.
Right.
And then
Instead of
yeah.
bringing it with you to the next trial or whatever.
Yeah, because that can be huge. That can be really detrimental to, your performance at
Right.
that next race. Thinking, gosh, well, I wiped out on a turn last time. Is today's course going to be really slippery? Am I going to wipe out again?
Right.
And then you start again taking that baggage with you, and it's going to affect your performance day
Yep.
up.
And yeah, you want to take those bags with you on that ride? No.
No, I don't.
It's like, It's like, okay, this is the challenge for the day. This is what we're going to work on. And that's that. And the other thing is you want to also have, and this is why you guys, having a good start line, a good start. And the start is not just the dog and not just the physical start, but a good mental start.
Yeah.
Is super important. The better your start is, whatever that is, the better your performance. If you have a bad start, I'm going to guarantee you the rest of it's not going to go much better. So always take your time at that start. And I think people in whatever type of competition you have, the start, people don't pay really much attention to it. And for some of those starts, it's for people, it's the day in the morning of. You're like, oh, I hope he does well. No, we're going to do well. We have a consistent, like this is all the stuff we bring. And when you go to that start line, deep breaths, in for 2, out for 4, no matter what competition you're in. And you have your start line, whatever it is, should be paramount. Whatever else happens, if your start is good, you have a much higher incidence of that whole trial going very well.
Yeah. So let's break that down just a little bit. Let's talk about the breathing, because that's super important. And growing up, I used to ride horses competitively, and we did a lot of breathing before we went into the ring. And I do yoga and meditation, and breathing is a huge part of it. And I know that for me personally, that really helps me relax myself, kind of relax my jitters. So you just mentioned kind of an in for 2,
yes,
out for 4.
Right. For those of you who don't do meditation or yoga or whatever, it's good practice. So you take a deep breath in for count of 2 and out for the count of 4. It really relaxes there's a nerve that it relaxes. I can't remember what it is. I'll have to look at the vaso, whatever. It's
vagus nerve, maybe.
Yeah,
like your vasovagal response.
Yes, and it relaxes that when you breathe out slow. So before you start your race, in for 2, out for 4, nice and controlled. It is amazing how that works every time. So you should incorporate that into your starts for every single race. That should be part of it. And I know you guys have somebody walk your dog up to the start line, right?
Usually.
So, usually. So when that's happening, that's when you should probably in your sport, that's where your breathing should be happening.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great time because someone else kind of has control over your dog. So you don't have to worry about them for just a minute, and you can calm yourself down.
Right. So that's kind of that's a really nice in that you have, because some of the other sports, you're there with your dog. Nobody else is handling your dog. So you guys have a really good.
It's a convenient cue for us.
It is
someone grabs the harness on your dog, cue the human to breathe.
Right. And then you have a better start, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to start in a better place. So you are lucky that your sport has that, right? Because some of the other sports don't have that. You have to mentally, like, that would be a cue for you. Somebody grabs your dog. And in training, if you do that in training, that would be a great place to practice it. And that's the thing, you guys, if you're going to work on this stuff, work on it in practice and training. Because I'm going to be honest, when we first started trying to incorporate it, I just told them what to do. And I said, do this at trial. And it wasn't working that well because they would forget to do it because they weren't used to it. So then I brought it into our training and start your start line, take a breath, blah, blah, blah. They got so used to doing it in training that it became very natural for them to do it in trial.
Yeah. So we could do it in practice just without someone holding our dogs. We can cue our dogs to line out. We can sit there for a moment, and before we let them go, practice those 2 deep breaths or 3, whatever you need to kind of calm your nerves so that it becomes habit.
Right.
So then when you get to that race environment, you don't forget to do it.
And also you should have something that you think about before you go. Like, I have the best dog ever, and I do it like you're not able to physically touch your dog because it's out in front of you, but you're able to look at a part of your dog. So you can look as you're taking a deep breath, look at maybe the top tips of your dog's ears if you have pointy ones.
For me, I can look at Lennon's wagging tail that never stops moving.
Right. And you could look at that and take a breath, and it's like, oh, take your whatever breaths, like you said, and it's like, oh, we're gonna have fun, or we've got this, or
Yeah.
we're ready. Whatever your last thought is before you give that dog your cue should be a very positive thought. So you start nice and easy and smooth, and at that point you're starting in such a good place that if you need to make adjustments during your race, you're mentally able to do that. Because I think
Yeah.
that's the problem too. If you're starting all stressed out and something happens during the race or during your situation, you're going to then not be able to respond as easily and effortlessly as if you would
Yeah.
when you're in a calmer place. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I know that a lot for agility or nose work, you might do some kind of like visualization. I think you guys probably do this quite a bit with agility because you know your
Agility, yes.
course, you
Yeah.
know exactly what it's going to look like. You can
Right.
kind of close your eyes and walk yourself through that. I think that that would be something helpful too for our dog powered sports. You know, for our local canicross races and things that are not sanctioned, we might not know exactly what the course is going to look like. You know, if we haven't run at that particular park before, but you know, a lot of the times at these events, we'll have a meeting in the morning where we'll kind of get a little bit of a rundown on what that course is going to look like. So talk to us a little bit about visualization and how it works and how we might apply it.
So for sports like yours and nose work and barn hunt, you don't know where the rats are, you don't know where the hides are, and you don't know what your course is, right?
Yeah.
So in agility, yes, you know the course, you can visualize as you're walking it, you can do all of that. For those of us that do sports that doesn't have that ability, you want to rehearse how you want to feel during that race or that search or in that place, right?
Okay.
You visualize and rehearse how you want to feel. You want to feel calm. You want to feel, you know, the breeze blowing in your face. You want to visualize how you want to feel because that will carry you through, right?
Yeah.
It's no different. You're
Yeah.
gonna use how you want to think about how you want to feel on your rig or on your bike or whatever you're on. You want to visualize the feeling you have, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
connectedness to your dog, if that's what you choose, or the fresh air or whatever. So you want to visualize how you want to feel. So while you're waiting your turn, you want to visualize, breathe, how you want to feel because we don't know what's out there. Right? We
Yeah.
don't know. Like we can't say, "Oh yeah, we know we're gonna feel." You know, we see the space for nose work, but we have no idea.
Yeah. Where that hide is. No.
We have no idea where the hides are gonna be. So
Yeah.
we have to just so you want to go in there, and that's what I've found that I've used that very effectively for myself and for my students. That you want to because it's like you want to really visualize like. You're going to feel that breeze. You're going to really visualize that, how you're going to feel. And it's amazing because you'll feel it again when you're in that space, whatever
Yeah.
that space is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Visualize yourself confidently taking turns, you know,
Exactly.
powering effortlessly up those big uphill climbs,
Right.
you know, feeling happy and confident that your dog is responding well to all of your cues,
Right.
and then letting that feeling and that confidence and that positive vibe kind of transfer over to the
And
race.
you want to if you're able to visualize that the night before, if you've been there before, because like for us, like for nose work, we don't know what that environment's going to be usually until that morning. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how it is day one for us. Day two, generally the course is exactly the same. So it'd be much easier for you to then visualize, you know, after day one, kind of morning of day two, visualize it even with more detail, which I think would be helpful.
So you definitely want to be able to visualize how you want to feel because really at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
How we feel and how we deal with the anxiety because, you know, and you want to have something that you think about beforehand. And pressure is the amplifier, right? It amplifies how afraid you are or how excited you are, right? So you want to make sure that you're visualizing that excitement, and then and even still overexcitement can not be great either, right?
Yeah. Now that's something interesting that you mentioned is kind of how early we should think about things. You know, I often, the breathing, for example, I know that I do that Well, I will start doing it with my start line routine, but right now I'll generally do it, reactively. Once I'm already starting to feel jitters, I'll do that to kind of calm myself.
Right.
How much of this visualization and kind of planning should we do proactively, regardless of how we're feeling, versus, okay, I'm starting to feel nervous now, let me
Right.
engage myself.
Well, and I think once you start doing it at the start line and have a good start and have a nice smooth start, you will find you'll be able to reel it in a little bit easier when you're starting to
Right.
feel yourself. But yeah, I do breathe too when I start to get worried about, like, my dog's not finding something or whatever. I take some deep breaths but the thing is, when you're very stressed, you might not think to do that.
Yeah,
Right?
unless you have done it a lot. You won't remember to do that when you're starting to feel nervous.
Exactly. So that's one
Yeah.
of those things you wanna definitely get used to that, and under pressure, you tend to, people don't breathe, they hold their breath,
Mhm.
or in your case, since you're depending on if you're physically moving a lot, you can kinda,
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
get yourself into a situation there if you don't breathe.
Yeah, for sure. Now, one thing I know you've talked a little bit about routines. So, like having a specific routine at the start line. For a lot of these events, it kind of got me thinking, because a lot of people are traveling for these. Like, I've traveled over 11 hours to get to these events before.
Mhm.
Sometimes it involves us camping out at these events. So, there's a lot of like packing and stuff that we do too. Do you apply some of that routine into what you're packing, how you're
Yes.
packing?
Yep, and what you're thinking about when you're packing is really the key.
Okay.
It's you're gonna take your basics, but what are you feeling when you are packing? You should be taking your deep breaths, you should be feeling confident, like, "We're gonna have such a great day tomorrow, we're gonna have such
Mhm.
a great, situation." Remember, whatever you feed your mind, right? You want you don't say, "Oh, I hope he qualifies." No.
Yeah.
No, no. It's like, we're gonna have a good day, and we're gonna focus on our turns or our going
Yeah.
ahead or whatever it is. So you wanna really, um, the night before when you're packing, how you feeling about it? Like, "This is gonna be great," feeling confident, feeling calm, and you should be working on on thinking about those things instead of like, "Oh, I hope we get there, and we might need this," and because you
I
start off.
hope we don't fall on the turns and
Exactly. Right.
yeah.
I hope I don't
Yeah.
fall down. It's like,
Yeah.
no, no. You wanna have that calm and confidence when you're packing. So what you're thinking about when you're packing, you know, thoughts are energy. So you wanna have put that positive, good energy out into the world before you head out. And traveling too, it's like, and this is where I've gotten more organized as I've gotten older. I wanna make sure I have everything that I'm gonna need
Mhm.
and have a checklist if that helps you, and all
Yep.
those things, so then that way you're better prepared. Because if you're
Yeah.
prepared, there's a lot less to worry about,
Yeah.
right?
A lot less stress involved.
Yeah, and
And
also,
go ahead.
if you have a hard time the night before, right? Um, yeah, take some deep breaths, stop, take a minute, and
Yeah.
just collect yourself before you continue on, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I find that important too, just kind of pausing yourself and collecting yourself instead of letting yourself kind of spiral, because once you start getting worked up about something, it's very easy to let that become a much bigger thing.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, in terms of like packing and organization, do you even recommend that people put things in the same places, kind of either in their bags or in their cars to help with day of,
You
car
could.
setup and
Yeah,
stuff?
and that, to be honest, I leave it's like whatever works for you
Yeah.
in that space, right? Whatever you are comfortable with and you are able to you're gonna do it what makes it good for you. So yeah,
Yeah.
if that works for you, great. If you are one of those people who remembers where they put everything and then it's fine. So that whatever wherever and whatever you do in that point has to be what works for you and for your dog, right?
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
gonna be frantic and you're not gonna know and you're just gonna throw things together and that doesn't work for you, then you need to change that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
some people can just throw everything together and they are fine.
Yeah.
They can handle
I
it.
am not.
Yeah, right.
I am a checklist before we go and pack things in the same places, because once I get there, I need to be able to just reach in my bag and know where it is.
Right. But some people, I've seen people, you're like, really? That's how you pack? And they,
And they're
okay.
like, yeah, I know it's right here. And you're like,
Yeah,
what the heck?
exactly. You know, I know people like that. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's interesting.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah,
Yeah.
it depends on what works. That's what I mean. Whatever you do, and that's why with your start line routine, you have to find a routine that works for you and for your dog.
Yeah.
There's not a one size fits all, because I could tell you, oh, you could do this, this, and that. And if you can't really do it, or that's not part of who you are, it's not
Mhm.
gonna work.
Yeah.
It's just not,
Yeah.
right?
Now, I think one of the things that's kind of interesting about dog powered sports, which is similar for you guys for nose work, is that often we are multi-dog households, and when we're traveling, we're bringing lots of dogs with us.
Right.
You know, and it's we could be entering the dogs in separate classes, and then we only really have to worry about the warm up and routine of one dog. Sometimes it involves people hooking 4, 6+ dogs together, and then you have to worry about that kind of start line routine and prep for each individual dog.
Right.
So as a person coming with a very experienced behavior background, and a person coming from experience with mental management and day of kind of routine setup, are there specific things you look for when you're looking at each individual dog, trying to figure out what they need on race day? And this is besides, you know, making sure that they've eaten and drinking appropriately when they're supposed to, or gone to the bathroom beforehand. You know, are there any things behaviorally you look at to make sure that each dog is kind of mentally prepared?
Definitely. Depend on, like, I have 3 dogs that I'm actively competing with. So it's a different dog every time. You cannot have the same start line routine. I mean, if you're doing a pack of dogs, like,
Yeah.
I know Noelle does sledding, so she has a pack of dogs, and
Yeah.
and for her, it's a little challenging in that some of the pack aren't hers,
Yeah.
right? They're not hers. They're
So she doesn't know them very well.
doesn't, you know, she knows them some, but not very well. It's so that's where you want a routine that the dogs that may be a little concerned or a little bit worried, having the
Mhm.
same setup routine is really important for those dogs.
Yeah. Those dogs that are a little bit more sensitive.
Right, those dogs that tend to be a little more sensitive, a little bit more worried, having a nice solid routine for each of them is really important, because then let's say you hook up one dog, then you hook up the other dog. And as long as you do it the same way every time, it'll help the dog being like, understand, okay, this is what we're getting ready to do, instead of changing it up all the time where they're not comfortable, and it can cause additional stress if the dog is not sure what's going to go on. So if you have a dog on your team that may be a little more sensitive, I think it's important that you definitely get more predictive of
Yeah.
how you set them up, how you hook them up, when you hook them up, um, when you grab them, when you know what I mean, and just
Yeah. How long they're staying in the car versus out
right,
on the tie out, you know, getting
right,
to see all the stimulation too, because it
right.
can be a loud and overwhelming environment for them
Right.
there.
So then you wanna definitely, have a pretty regimented routine for the dogs, because that'll
Mhm.
help them, and it also helps you, right?
Yeah.
Kind of check in a little bit more. But yeah, I think depending on the sense, your dog having a nice solid routine is really, on putting them together. How you take them out of the car is just gonna be really, really helpful. Like
Yeah.
if a dog needs, maybe you can throw the ball for a little while before you run them. Can you do that? Or if you can't do that, what's gonna, or maybe go for a little walk, take a
Mhm.
breath, just to spend a little time with that one dog before
Yep.
you go on. All those things are gonna matter when you have multiple dogs. Like I would, my lab, when I do nose work with her, it really doesn't. She's very adaptable. She's like, okay,
Mhm.
whatever we do, she knows what the deal is, and she's very easy to, you just take her for a walk, she potty, she knows everything to do. My shepherd male is a little more sensitive that way, so
Yeah.
I spend a little extra time with him. walking him around and getting him used to being in the environment. Where my lab, I don't have to do that as long. I have to do it a little longer with him. So you really have to know what you have as far as your dogs, and being able to have that established routine for them, really, so that they can be more comfortable. But be adaptable enough that if you can't do that routine for that day, that you're not going to fall apart and go, oh my God, he's not going to do it.
Yeah.
The dogs are very resilient. They can handle it.
Yeah, dogs are really resilient. Always, I am always so impressed by them.
It's like, wow. Well, I got to tell you, I was very impressed with your sport, because that dog is running that trail without a lot of direction from you.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit, but
yeah, and each course is a little different. You know, I think the video that I had sent you was in a big grass field. That was a little bit more challenging. Some of them are through the woods where it's very easy, but you know, we give verbal cues for the dog, but most dogs are really good about staying on trail and following that trail. And it goes to show you they know their jobs.
Yeah,
you know, so sometimes we need to just take a deep breath and let them do their thing.
Yeah, because I was like, wow.
That's
awesome. That was really cool. It was very cool to watch, right? Right.
So one thing that you talked a little bit about was kind of our skill set as people. And you brought it up with the learning how to drive a car, right? So when I was first learning how to drive a car, I had to think about everything. Get in the car, put my seatbelt on, key in the ignition, turn it on, you know, like everything. And then you don't have room in your brain for anything else, because that's all you can think about.
Right.
So then once we kind of learn how to do something, like me now, I could very easily get myself to the grocery store and be like, how the heck did I get here? You know, like, it's a little scary, but it kind of becomes muscle memory for us a bit.
Right.
So talk to us about, you know, some of the skills, especially some of our people who are new to the sport. Let's say maybe going to their first bike jor race, pretty confident on a bike, but maybe don't have all the technical skills they should. If we're thinking in every turn about having to do specific things, how does that impact our overall mindset and our ability to kind of focus on the race as a whole, if we're still trying to pull apart little pieces about, okay, now I got to do this, and now I have to give my dog a cue, versus all of it just being muscle memory.
Right. So it goes back to being process oriented. So if you're still a beginner, right? If you're still a beginner dog, your goal is going to be different, right? If you are a beginner team, I want to be able to be more confident in my turns, and that should be the goal for that race. Instead of, right? And I think that's what we need to, that's what your focus needs to be on, something, especially if you're just starting, because it's all the little successes that get you to the big success. So if you're still learning the technical piece, then your process should be, I want to get better at turns, or turning the rig, or whatever. And the truth is, if you have a race where you have a very difficult time, that you're technically still having some problems, then it's one of those things you have to think about. It's like, okay, maybe we need to practice more before we do the race thing. Because the problem is, if you are entering and you're not quite there, where you're not and it does not that just should be perfect. But that you're not quite there technically, you might, because that you're going to bring all that stress to the next trial.
Right.
Where you're going to improve, things are going to get better. You are going to do well with you're not going to be the same. You know, you and your dog are not the same. One of the things that we tend to do as people is, oh, well, my dog has problems with this. Yeah, like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
We are not the same people we were last year or 6 months ago. Well, 6 months ago for most of us. But we are not the same people. So what might have been a problem for us 2 or 3 years ago is not a problem for us now. Same for the dog. So the dog is reactive. Yeah, like freaking 5 years ago. It's not even doing that anymore. It doesn't care. But we're bringing that with us every time.
Yeah.
So when you trial in that environment where you're not still you're not comfortable about your skill set, you really want to either have really more realistic, process oriented, like
Mhm.
what we're going to work on. We're going to see where we're at, or we're going to use it as an assessment. Because
Right.
usually that's what I tell people is use this race or this trial as an assessment to see where you are. And so
Yeah.
when you look at it as an assessment, you don't worry about all the other stuff. You're
Yeah.
like, let's see how we're going to do. You go in there with a different mindset that's going to serve you. You're going to
Yeah.
come away with that from that race going, well, I did this really well. I did that really well. I've got this now. Now we can, move on. So I
Yeah.
always tell my folks, your first trial at a new level should be an
Mhm.
assessment. Where are you? Are
Yeah.
you ready here to be here? And if you look at competition and races in that way, it really does take a lot of that pressure off. And it's
Yeah.
amazing how well people do when they take that pressure off, because it's like, well, I just want to see where we're at. And we had a few
Yeah.
students that they titled because their focus wasn't the title. Their focus
Yeah.
was, let's see where we are as
Let's
a
just do
team.
the thing and have fun.
Right. Let's see
Yeah.
where we are as a team and have a good day with
Yeah.
the dogs, right?
I really love that the mindset that serves you, because I think it's, again, race day jitters. We can get all of these nerves going, and that is not a mindset that is going to suit you well. It
No.
is going to increase your anxiety. It's going to increase, your likelihood to only focus on the negatives and not be able to enjoy what you're doing. Not be able to enjoy the time with your dog and reflect on it in a positive way, and that simply changing our mindset to something that serves us. And it doesn't mean we have to be like uber positive, life is great, everything's going to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
But we need to kind of simplify how we're thinking and think about things that are going to benefit us and our team versus worrying and filling our mind with things that are not going to be productive for us.
Right. And the other thing, you guys, our dogs didn't ask to do sports. They didn't ask to
Yeah.
do competitions. They're just doing it with us because they love us and they want to enjoy the time.
Yeah.
And the truth is, they're not with us very long. So, and at
Yeah.
the end of the day, you're not going to remember all the stuff you've won. You're going to remember moments that you've
Mhm.
had in those competitions. So, at least that's true for me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I had a lot of very successful trials with my dog, but I remember moments
Mhm.
of those trials, not and I think and I know there's so much about being present, but it really does matter to the dog. And when you are present, it's like everything else melts away and you don't
Yeah.
worry about much. Being there present with your companion is just the best feeling ever. And
Yeah.
and that's what you should strive to feel, that being present with them and just hanging out and just being with them. Because it's no different than any other relationship we have, right? We want to be
Mhm.
present with that person. Um,
Yeah.
and with our dogs too, like be there in that moment with that dog, right?
Yeah.
And I was walking to the start line with my lab, and we're walking past a little truck, and there was a little hitch, and they usually put hides on those hitches. She was like, it was just a wonderful. I was just really connected with her that day. We're really
Yeah.
together and hanging out. She walks past it, she sniffs it, and she goes, "Oh, it's not there." Kept on going. I'm
She's
like,
like, there's sometimes hides here. I'm going to check it out.
and it wasn't even a we weren't even searching yet. We were on our
Yeah.
way. And that so took the edge off as we got to the line. I just laughed so hard. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna sniff all the way there because that's what
Yeah.
we do. And it
And
just,
if you weren't in the moment with her, you wouldn't have been able to appreciate that.
yep,
If
or
you were
notice it.
stressed about what you were doing, you would
Right.
have, come on, we're going, and just
Right,
moved
right,
along
right.
and
She
missed
was
it.
like, "Oh, I'm gonna check it." And she sniffed it on the way. I go, well, good girl.
She's like, I'm already working. I know what we're going to be doing.
Exactly. Right. Right. And that's actually really true, because she had, for her in our sport, the harness, as it is in your sport, the
Yeah.
harness is the cue. Like, we're going to be doing
Yeah.
this stuff. We're going to be
Yeah.
doing this thing, right? So it's very
Yeah.
cool. It's very cool when the dog's like, oh, we're doing that thing again. So that's a lot for a lot of dogs. Once they've been doing it a while, yeah, that cue, and they're like, oh, this is great. This is exciting, right? And being in that moment is just the really coolest thing. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for those of our viewers who don't know a lot about mental management, maybe enjoyed this and would like to learn a little more about kind of how to tackle their own anxieties and get their head in the game, how can they reach you, and what kind of services do you have for them?
So, as I was telling Chelsea, I have been doing some one-on-one coaching on mental management for a while. However,
You're
I
just too fabulous.
it, however, I find that it doesn't help. It doesn't help as many people, right, that need it
Mhm.
for whatever sports. So and I should be launching it in the next couple of days. I am going to do a Facebook group, a paid subscription where I'm going to do trainings in that group on specifically mental management and exercises and stuff to help people work on it. Because that's the one thing I've noticed about the mental management piece. It, it seems simple, but it's not. And we have to have people to be able to um, work on it just as
Yeah.
you would work on your technical skills.
Yeah.
You have to work the mental management piece.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
so you will have trainings and check-ins, and I'll be able to answer questions and be able to go through all that process. So Chelsea will put out, it's foryourcanon.com/canine sports. And you
Yep. And
can,
we've actually got that already loaded here in the header, so that you guys can click on that, and that gives them a free download. They get a little bit of some
yeah,
free information from you too,
right.
right?
Yep, you get a video download on training on start lines, how to do a start line. The other thing I wanted you to, a little exercise I want to give you um, is I want you to practice being present, doing something that you do every day. So, for example, I want you to really focus on like for me, I'm a coffee drinker. I like coffee. I and think about putting the grounds in the coffee machine or the French press, boiling
Hmm.
the water, really being present in that moment of making your tea, your coffee, whatever routine, brushing your teeth, something that you do every day, and practice being present in that moment every day doing that particular thing, because that is how you get good at it, right?
Hmm.
So if you practice it away from dogs, where you're practicing being mentally there, present, doing, that's one of the exercises I give people. I want
Yeah.
you to pick something that you do every day. Usually most of us brush our teeth or have coffee or have a morning tea or whatever it is. I want you to be present in that moment, or take your dog for a walk and be present during that walk. What do you notice?
Yeah.
What do you notice on that walk? What did you feel? Some of the smells that you had, to be very, very present in that moment, that you will get used to doing it, so that when you have to do it at a trial, it's a piece of cake. It's
Yeah,
easy
I
to do.
I really like that, and I think that for someone who has not done that, the first time you do it, the first few times you do it, it's a lot harder than you think it is,
Oh,
because
yeah.
we always have screens in front of us. There's always noise in the background. We're always multitasking and thinking about what I'm doing next, or what just happened, and my conversation
Right,
with so and so, and so it's to be completely present can take a lot of practice. So
yep,
doing it with something really mundane that you do every day, I
right,
love that.
right,
It's a really easy way to kind of ease your way into the process.
right. Like I did it with coffee, like,
Yeah.
and then once the coffee was made, how it felt, the cup feels in my hand, and how that whole process. And now it's amazing. I do it every day. Like
Yeah.
I my first cup of coffee is my favorite time, because it's like I'm so there, the
Yeah.
smell, everything
There,
about it.
there's no stress. It's just wiping away everything and being there.
Right.
I love
And
that.
I do it now every day. It took, but it took a few tries.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
because my mind is always busy doing stuff, and I'm thinking about stuff all the time. So it really was hard. It took me about a week to get like 100%, right? Because I'd be present, then I'm like, okay, it's gone. I can bring it back.
Okay, focus again.
Yeah, exactly. So it took me a little while to get there. So don't be discouraged if you can't get there right away, but practice it. You'll get there, and then it'll be just part of your routine. So that is one of those exercises I give you. Like, think about, and it should be something you do every day, because then it's easy to you get to practice it every single day.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Well, thank you, Nancy, so much for joining us. This was absolutely fantastic. If you guys have some questions, like I said, I included the link over to her page, so you can hop on over. And she also has a bunch of lives over on her page. So if you're curious to learn about some other topics, including mental management, you've done some chats over there as well. Check her out. She's an incredible resource, and you guys will definitely benefit, no matter how beginner or experienced you are in the sport. Learning how to tackle our own kind of mental blocks is really, really huge in impacting our performance.
Also, Chelsea will be guest on my Facebook Live this weekend.
I will.
We're going to be talking about winter sports and all that. So that's at 7:00 on Sunday night. So on my Facebook page for your canine. So join us there so we can
continue the conversation.
So she's going to talk about the sports, because I'm very intrigued by it, even though I don't really have a dog to do that sport with, but I'm just fascinated. I think it's so cool. So I'm really very, very interested in that. So tune in so you can see your own Chelsea there sharing your sport with
just
other
in case you haven't gotten enough about dog-powered sports. Please join us. More dog fun.
Yeah, really. All right.
Well, thank you again, Nancy. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.